Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. It's an August evening, and the heat wave hasn't fully dissipated. Marcus Daniels parked his utility truck in the driveway and walked wearily toward his porch. As an electrician, he had just completed a full day of line repair work, and his sweat soaked his coveralls. Today they were repairing the electrical system of an old office building, and the wires, twisted like snakes, kept him and his coworkers busy for a full 10 hours. Marcus, Gloria, the old lady next door, is standing in front of his house with her arms crossed and her face full of anger. Her gray hair looked a little disheveled in the setting sun, and it was obvious she had been waiting here for some time. "What's going on at your house?" Marcus put down his toolbox and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He noticed Gloria's face was more serious than usual, even with a hint of fear. "What do you mean, Gloria? People have been screaming all afternoon." Her voice was sharp and shrill and stood out on the quiet street. "Sounds like someone is suffering. That sound. I've never heard anything so horrible in my life. I almost had to call the police." Marcus frowned as a wave of unease surged through him. His wife, Emma, was supposed to be working at the hospital today. She's a nurse in the emergency room and usually doesn't get home until 9 p.m. Their schedules have developed a regular pattern. He's out early and stays late fixing circuits while she takes care of patients at the hospital. Maybe the TV was turned up too loud. He tried to calm the neighbor, even though he knew no one was supposed to be home. "TV," Gloria grunted, her expression telling Marcus she wasn't buying the explanation. "I've lived 70 years and I know what a TV sound is, and what a real person's scream is." That cry of agony, broken and sporadic, high and low, was creepy. "I can even hear things breaking." She turned to leave, muttering something about how young people are these days as she went. Marcus watched her back disappear behind her own porch, and an indescribable uneasiness welled up inside him. Gloria may be nosy, but she's not the type to make something out of nothing. He pulled out his keys and pushed open the front door. The house was dark, with only a faint glow from the kitchen nightlight. There was a strange smell in the air, not Emma's usual lavender air freshener, but some kind of unfamiliar perfume. "Emma," he shouted, but only empty echoes answered him. Marcus turns on the living room light and looks around. Everything looked normal. The TV was off and the remote was still in its original place on the coffee table. The couch cushions stayed the way they were when they left in the morning, and those medical journals Emma had collected were neatly arranged on the side table. However, there were two wine glasses on the coffee table, one of which still had a faint lipstick mark on the rim, a darker color than Emma's usual. He walked into the kitchen. There were no dishes in the sink, but there were two takeout boxes in the trash. Emma never eats takeout and always insists on cooking her own meals or eating in the hospital cafeteria. Marcus opens the fridge and the sandwiches he put in there this morning are still there, but the chicken Emma prepared for dinner is gone. He walked up the stairs, the wooden steps creaking familiarly under his weight. The door to the master bedroom was half open, and he pushed it open, and it too was empty. The beds were neatly made, and the mint green sheets Emma had purposely laid out when she left in the morning were spotless. However, the position of her pillow was slightly shifted and a corner of the sheet was slightly lifted as if someone had sat on the edge of the bed. Marcus walks over to Emma's dresser. Her jewelry box is open. He examined it carefully, and a few things were missing from it. The pearl necklace her grandmother had left behind was gone, as well as the diamond earrings he'd given her for their 5th wedding anniversary. These are Emma's most prized pieces of jewelry, which she never wears lightly. His heart began to race. Marcus walked quickly to the closet and pulled the door open. Emma's clothes are still there, but significantly less. Several of her favorite dresses were missing, including the dark blue evening gown he'd given her last Christmas and the expensive Prada handbag, a gift she'd bought herself with her year-end bonus. In the bathroom, Emma's makeup was strewn about, which was unusual. She has always had an obsessive-compulsive habit of tidiness, and everything must be put in its regular place. There was a crack in the mirror that Marcus was sure hadn't been there in the morning. There were a few drops of a dark liquid that had dried on the floor that looked like red wine. A slight noise came from downstairs. Marcus held his breath and crept over to the stairway. The sound was like something moving, soft, but extraordinarily clear in the silence of the house. He walked slowly down the stairs, trying not to make a sound. The sound was coming from the guest room, the one they rarely used, usually just a place to pile up clutter. Emma always talked about converting it into a den, but never got around to it. The door to the guest room was closed, and a tie hung from the doorknob. Not Marcus's tie. He never wears that fancy pattern. Marcus puts his hand on the doorknob, takes a deep breath, and pushes it open with a jerk. The room was empty, but the bed had obviously been slept in. There were 2 more dents in the pillow, and the covers were pushed haphazardly to the side. There were some suspicious marks on the sheets, and the air smelled of that strange perfume mixed with something else. Even stranger, there was a cell phone he'd never seen before sitting on the nightstand. Marcus picked up his cell phone, and the screen lit up. There is no password protection. The wallpaper was a picture of Emma, but not any he'd ever seen. The photo shows Emma posing provocatively in a revealing black lingerie. The location of the shoot was this room. There were a dozen missed calls on the cell phone, all from the same number, and the contact name showed up as Ryan. There are more text message notifications. Marcus opened the texting app, and what he saw made his blood instantly freeze. The latest text was sent half an hour ago. "Baby, are you okay? That was crazy back there. I've arrived home safely. Remember to delete all records. Love you." Marcus continued to scroll down. The text message logs go back 3 months, and the content is becoming increasingly explicit. Some of the messages mention their rendezvous in a variety of places: hotels, Ryan's apartment, even the hospital's duty room. "Last night was unforgettable," one of the entries read, "and it felt especially exciting to do it in your husband's bed." "You're so bad," Emma replied, "but I like it. Next time we can try it in his study." Marcus's hands were shaking and anger was coming in like a tidal wave, but he forced himself to keep reading. There's a whole conversation about how to avoid detection. "Marcus is working late this week, and we have plenty of time. Are you sure he won't suspect? He trusts me too much to ever check my whereabouts. And he's been too busy with that big project lately to pay any attention to me. Poor guy. Don't play nice, Ryan. You enjoy the thrill no less than I do." There were also some photos, intimate photos of Emma with a strange man. The man looks to be in his early 30s, handsome and obviously younger than Marcus. Some of the photos had backgrounds Marcus recognized as luxury hotels downtown, and others were taken in unfamiliar apartments. Marcus put down his cell phone and closed his eyes. Anger churned through him like lava, but at the same time, a terrible calmness spread. He needs more evidence. He needs to know who this Ryan really is, and he needs a well-thought-out plan. Just then, his own cell phone rang. "It's Emma." "Honey," she said, her voice sounding normal, even a little pleasant. "I'm working late tonight. I probably won't be home until midnight." The emergency room was especially busy today, with several car accident victims. Marcus stared at the unfamiliar cell phone in his hand with Emma's scantily clad picture still lit up on it. "Okay, did you have lunch?" "Ate, in the hospital cafeteria." She answered quickly. "By the way, you do remember to pay your electric bill tomorrow, right?" "Remember?" Marcus struggled to keep his voice steady. "Emma," Marcus said, "have you been home this afternoon?" There was silence on the other end of the line for a second. "No." "What?" "Gloria said she heard someone screaming in our house." Emma laughed, but the laugh sounded a little forced. "Screaming? That's so weird. Maybe she misheard. You know her, getting older, she gets things mixed up sometimes." "Maybe," Marcus said. "Then be careful and be safe." "I will. Love you." "I love you too." Marcus felt like he was chewing on glass when the words came out. After hanging up, Marcus sat down on the bed in the guest room and began to scrutinize that cell phone. He opened the album and found more sickening content. Some of the videos he was afraid to click on, the thumbnails alone spoke volumes. Call records show that Emma and Ryan spoke almost every day, sometimes as many as a dozen times a day. Marcus recognized times. Those times when Emma told him he had to work late or party with friends. He opened his phone's calendar app and found it detailing their rendezvous schedule. Today from 2 to 5 p.m., it's labeled Marcus's house. There's a note next to it. "Remember to bring the new set you bought." Marcus stands up and looks around the room for more clues. He found a shopping bag in his closet containing a set of erotic lingerie he'd never seen before, with the tags still on, at an amazing price. Underneath the bed was a small box containing a number of items that Marcus didn't want to think twice about the purpose of. He returned to the master bedroom and began to examine it more closely. Deep in Emma's closet, he found a notebook. Flip it open, and it's Emma's diary. The most recent one was written 3 days ago. Every moment with Ryan was like living a dream. He made me feel the passion that Marcus could never give me. Marcus is a nice guy, but nice guys are often boring. His life is like the circuits he repairs. Everything is in order and there are no surprises. Unlike Ryan, he's dangerous, exciting, and addictive. I know it's wrong, but I can't help myself. Maybe I should consider a showdown with Marcus. It's on my conscience to keep lying to him like this. But I can't let go of the life I have now. The house, the steady income, the social status. It would be nice to have the best of both worlds. Marcus flipped to earlier content. Emma first mentioned Ryan 3 months ago. There's a new doctor at the hospital today, Ryan Hutchinson, a cardiac surgery resident from Boston. He's really handsome and very articulate. We had a long conversation in the lounge, and he said I was the most beautiful nurse he had ever seen. I know I shouldn't have my heart in my mouth, but when he looked at me, I felt like I was 20 again. The diary entries that follow chronicle the development of their relationship, from flirting among coworkers to first dates to the first betrayal of their marriage. Emma describes in detail how she feels, the thrill of that backdraft, and the guilt she feels for Marcus. But guilt didn't stop her from continuing. Marcus closed the diary. He'd seen enough. He pulled out his own cell phone and dialed his best friend Derek's number. Derek is a private investigator and former police officer experienced in investigating cases of infidelity. I need your help, Marcus said, his voice surprisingly calm. What is it? There was concern in Derek's voice. They'd known each other for 15 years, and Derek could hear something off in Marcus' tone. Emma cheated. I need you to help me investigate a man named Ryan Hutchinson, as well as gather more evidence. There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. Are you sure, Marcus? 100% sure. I just found their cell phones with everything in them. Damn, Derek sighed. I'm sorry, bro. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But first, I need to get a handle on everything. Understood. Give me the information on this man, and I'll start my investigation first thing in the morning. Marcus, are you okay now? Marcus looked out the window at the deepening twilight. I'm fine. Never been more awake. After hanging up the phone, Marcus began to formulate a plan. He doesn't act impulsively. He doesn't make a scene. He's going to make Emma and her lover pay for their behavior, and pay dearly. He put that cell phone back where it belonged and cleaned up all the traces he had left behind. Then he went to the kitchen and made dinner, Emma's favorite pasta. He even opened a nice bottle of red wine. When Emma comes home late at night, she finds Marcus asleep. On the table was a dinner prepared for her, and next to it was a note. For my hardworking wife. There's dessert in the microwave. Love you, Marcus. Emma watched this with a flicker of guilt in her eyes. But the twinge of guilt quickly disappeared when she pulled out her cell phone to check Ryan's messages. The next morning, Marcus woke up as usual and kissed Emma, who was still sleeping, on her forehead. She muttered and rolled over to go back to sleep. She did come home late last night, still smelling like disinfectant. At least this time she actually went to the hospital, although Marcus suspects she went somewhere else before going to the hospital for show. He stared at her for a moment. The woman he'd loved for 8 years, the woman he'd thought he'd grow old with. Her face is still beautiful in the morning light, but now Marcus sees nothing but lies and betrayal. In the kitchen, he made 2 cups of coffee, as always. When Emma came downstairs, her coffee was waiting for her. Good morning, dear, she said, but didn't look him in the eye. She picked up her coffee cup, her hand shaking slightly. Rough night last night? Marcus asked, checking the news on his phone as he did so. Yeah, handled 3 emergency cases in a row. She sipped her coffee quickly. By the way, thanks for preparing dinner. That was sweet. It should, Marcus said. What's the plan for today? Regular shift, gets off at 5 in the afternoon. Emma glanced at the clock on the wall. What about you? There's an apartment building on the west side that's going to have its electrical system overhauled, and it could take all day. Marcus stood up and put the cup in the sink. What do you want for dinner? I can go grocery shopping. Emma's expression was a little surprised. Marcus rarely offers to cook. No, I'll get it after work. Okay, I know you've been tired lately. It's really not necessary. Emma said hastily. I have to go, don't want to be late. Marcus nodded and watched her hurry away. Her car had just pulled out of the driveway when Derek's call came in. I tracked down Ryan Hutchinson. Derek said, 32 years old, transferred last year from Boston General to St. Mary's on your side. Single, living in an upscale apartment downtown. Interestingly, he had a similar thing when he was in Boston, an affair with a married nurse that ended up getting ugly, and that's why he transferred. Looks like a repeat offender, Marcus said coldly. There's more. Derek continues. I checked his social media, and this guy is high profile. Instagram has its fair share of photos showing off wealth, famous cars, watches, fancy restaurants. But based on the hospital's published pay scale, there's no way a resident could afford that lifestyle. What do you think he's relying on? In my experience, it's either a rich kid or you rely on women. Judging by his history, I'm leaning toward the latter. Marcus gripped his cell phone. Keep checking. I want to know everything about him. Daily routine, places he frequents, any weaknesses. No problem. Also, do you want me to follow Emma? Not for a while. I have other plans. After hanging up, Marcus didn't go to work. Instead, he drove to an electronics store. There, he purchased a professional surveillance set, miniature cameras, recorders, GPS trackers. The clerk assured him that the devices were small and discreet, the picture quality was clear, and they were perfectly legal. After all, they were for use in his own home and in his own car. Upon returning home, Marcus began to methodically install the devices. The camera in the living room is hidden in the decorations on the bookshelf, opposite the couch and the doorway. The kitchen one is hidden behind the spice rack. The stairway is fitted with one to monitor movement up and down the stairs. The master bedroom he hesitated and eventually installed, not to see the images, but to record their conversation. Guest rooms are key monitoring areas. Marcus installed equipment at multiple angles to ensure there were no dead spots. He also put a GPS tracker on Emma's car, hidden under the seat, so she couldn't possibly find it. All the devices are connected to his cell phone and laptop for real-time viewing and recording. Marcus tested all the equipment to make sure it was working properly, and then cleaned up all traces of the installation. At 2 p.m., Marcus sits in a coffee shop a few blocks from his home and opens his laptop. GPS shows Emma's car is headed home, not at the hospital. 10 minutes later, surveillance footage shows Emma entering the house, followed by Ryan. Marcus forced himself to remain calm, watching the screen. They wasted no time and went straight up the stairs. Marcus switches to the stair cam and watches them embrace each other as they enter the master bedroom. He turned off the bedroom screen, but kept the video recording. The audio continues, and their conversation is clearly audible. We have to be careful, Ryan said. It was almost discovered yesterday. It won't. Emma's voice. Marcus trusts me too much, and he's been too busy lately to suspect anything. Are you sure? A man's intuition is sometimes spot on. Emma laughed. You don't know Marcus. He's the kind of guy who's a stick in the mud, with nothing but work and responsibility on his mind. Romantic? Passion. Those words are not in his vocabulary. Then why are you still with him? Honestly, a sense of security. Marcus is a great husband. Responsible, steady income, never messes around. But a good husband is not always a good lover. So you sought me out? So I looked for you. Next came a sound Marcus didn't want to hear. He put on his headphones and continued to listen. Half an hour later, their conversation rang out again. I was thinking, Ryan said, that maybe it's time for us to think seriously about the future. What do you mean? You can't keep your feet in two boats like this forever. Either choose your husband or me. Emma was silent for a moment. What if I choose you? Then get a divorce and we'll stay together. Easier said than done. Divorce means I'm going to lose half my property. The house is joint property, as is the deposit. I can't net out. Is money really that important? People who say that usually aren't short of money. Emma's tone is a little sharp. Ryan, I love you, but I have to think about myself, too. If there's a way to be with you and keep what I deserve at the same time. What are you thinking? Nothing. Just saying. Marcus pauses the recording, deep in thought. Not only is Emma betraying him, she's calculating how to maximize her profits in the divorce. He opened his cell phone and sent Derek a message. Get me in touch with a reliable divorce attorney. A few minutes later, Derek replied, Harold Benson, the best divorce lawyer in town. I made an appointment for you for tomorrow afternoon. Surveillance shows Ryan leaving around 4. Emma, on the other hand, started tidying up the room and cleaning up the traces. She changed the sheets, opened the windows, and sprayed tons of air freshener. Then she went to the kitchen and started preparing dinner as if nothing had happened. Marcus continued to stay at the coffee shop until 5 o'clock and then drove home. When he walked into the house, Emma was busy in the kitchen, flowers still on her apron. "You're back just in time," she said pleasantly. "I'm making your favorite roast chicken. Smells good," Marcus said, walking over and hugging her from behind. He felt her body stiffen slightly, then relax. "How was work today?" she asked. "The usual. Wires, switches, fuses." Marcus let go of her. "What about you? Is the hospital busy?" "Okay." She focused on cutting the vegetables. "By the way, Melissa invited us to a barbecue at their house this weekend. Are you free?" Melissa is a co-worker of Emma's and lives in the suburbs with her husband Tom. They occasionally get together. "That should do it," Marcus said. "Haven't seen them in a long time." Dinner was served in apparent harmony. Emma talks about interesting hospital stories, and Marcus responds at the right time. If it weren't for the images he'd seen that afternoon, Marcus would almost believe they were still the same loving couple. At night, while Emma is in the shower, Marcus checks her cell phone. She changed her password, but Marcus knew her habits. She always used her mother's birthday. Sure enough, the phone unlocked. He quickly went through her chats with Ryan. Most of the explicit content has been removed, but there are still some hints. He took some screenshots on his own phone and then put her phone back where it belonged. The next day, Marcus took a half-day off work to see his lawyer. Harold Benson's office is located in a fancy downtown office building with a sophisticated decor that tells you it charges a lot. "Mr. Daniels," said Harold, a man in his 50s, his florid white hair immaculately combed. "Derek briefly described your situation. Please tell me in detail what happened." Marcus had all the evidence on the table: photos, audio recordings, video screenshots. Harold scrutinizes it, a serious look growing on his face. "The evidence of adultery is overwhelming," he said, "but I'll tell you the truth. In our state, adultery itself does not affect property division. A no-fault divorce means that property is divided equally regardless of who was right or wrong." Marcus' heart sank. "So what's the point of me collecting all this evidence?" "Take it easy." Harold held up a finger. "Useful. First of all, they prove her morals when it comes to child custody battles. Secondly, if we can prove that she squandered joint property on an affair, that's a different story. She did spend a lot of money," Marcus said. "Shopping, hotels, gifts." "Very good. I need you to gather all your financial records, credit card statements, bank statements, purchase receipts, any evidence that proves she used the joint property for the affair. Is there any other way to protect my property?" Harold contemplates for a moment. "There is a way, but it requires your cooperation. If she initiates the divorce and is willing to sign an agreement to give up some of her property, that's a different story." "Why would she do that?" "If the divorce was due to her fault and the evidence could affect her reputation, say, in front of her hospital colleagues. A nurse who is exposed as having an affair with a doctor can be detrimental to a career. She may make concessions to save her honor." Marcus nodded. "I understand. But," Harold warned, "don't do anything illegal. No threats, no blackmail. Everything has to be done within the legal framework." After leaving the attorney's office, Marcus sat in his car thinking about his next step. He needs more evidence of Emma's financial behavior. Back home, he began to systematically search. In Emma's study drawer, he found several credit card statements. Over the past 3 months, she spent a staggering amount of money at upscale restaurants, boutiques, and hotels. One $3,000 bill came from a jewelry store, and Marcus had never seen her wear anything that expensive. He also found a bank account he didn't know about that Emma had opened separately. Although the exact balance is not visible, the transfer records show that she transferred money in from their joint account every month. Marcus photographed and documented all the evidence and then put things back in their place. He checked the surveillance, and Emma was really working at the hospital today and didn't come home. In the evening, Emma came home with Chinese takeout. "I'm too tired to cook," she explained. They eat together, and Emma seems a little distracted, checking her phone every now and then. "In a hurry?" Marcus asked. "No, it's just hospital stuff," she said vaguely. After the meal, Emma said she wanted an early night. Marcus was watching TV in the living room, actually monitoring her movements. Around 10 o'clock, he heard talking from upstairs. Emma was on the phone, albeit very quietly, but Marcus heard bits and pieces. "Can't wait. He may have suspected. It has to be as soon as possible." Marcus crept upstairs and listened at the door. I know the risks, Emma said, but we can't keep doing this. Marcus isn't stupid. He'll find out sooner or later. The voice on the other end of the line was inaudible to Marcus, but Emma's answer gave him an idea of who was on the other end. Ryan, listen to me. I've looked into it, and if I can prove that he's domestically abusive or mentally abusive, the courts will be inclined to award me more property. Marcus's fists clenched. Not only does she want a divorce, she's planning to frame him. No real evidence is needed. Emma went on. I can document things and exaggerate. For example, he's controlling, won't let me see my friends, and monitors my whereabouts. The judge usually believes the woman. Yeah, Melissa said she knows a lawyer who specializes in these kinds of lawsuits. We'll meet next week. Marcus crept back downstairs, the anger in his heart having transformed into icy determination. Emma not only betrayed him, she's going to ruin his reputation. It's time to fight back. The next day was Saturday. Emma says she's going to the gym and then shopping with Melissa. Marcus stated he was going to the hardware store to get some tools. In fact, he went straight to Derek's office. It's worse than I thought. Marcus told Derek what he heard last night. She's planning to falsely accuse me of domestic abuse. Derek's face was stony. This is serious. Once such an allegation is established, you will not only lose your property, but you could also face a restraining order or even criminal charges. That's why I had to get a head start. What's your plan? Marcus opened his laptop and showed all the evidence he'd collected over the last few days. I'm going to show her up. Not in a courtroom, but in the place she cares about most, the hospital. Derek frowned. Marcus, remember what the lawyer said. Don't do anything illegal. I won't. Marcus said. I'm just going to let the truth come out. The following week, Marcus acted more considerate than ever. He brings Emma breakfast in bed every day, offers to do chores after work, and even suggests a weekend trip to that French restaurant she's always wanted to go to. Emma is clearly confused by his turnaround, but she seems to take it as Marcus' effort to redeem himself after sensing a crisis in his marriage. This made her even more reckless. Surveillance shows that she brought Ryan home almost every day while Marcus was at work. Meanwhile, Marcus prepares his plan. He contacted an acquaintance at the hospital, Linda, the wife of a fellow electrician who is the hospital's administrator. Linda, I need a favor. Marcus said on the phone. But first, I need to tell you something. When Linda heard the whole story, there was anger in her voice. That bitch. Emma usually acts so innocent, but it turns out she's this kind of person. Can you help me? Sure. What do you want me to do? I need to know when the hospital staff meeting is next month. Next Wednesday, 10 a.m., in the Grand Council chambers. All healthcare professionals are required to attend. Perfect. Marcus' plan is gradually taking shape. He continued to collect evidence, including photos and videos of Emma and Ryan on various occasions. Derek helps track down Ryan and finds out more interesting information. This Ryan is something else. Derek reported. He was having affairs with at least 2 women at the same time, in addition to your wife and a girl from the pharmacy department. Is there evidence? There are photos. And that girl is only 23 and just graduated. Ryan is such a scumbag. This information rounds out Marcus's plan. Not only is he going to expose Emma, he's going to make Ryan pay. On Wednesday night, Emma tells Marcus she's going to a nursing seminar over the weekend in a neighboring city for 2 nights. Another seminar? Marcus asked, pretending not to notice. You've been attending a lot lately. That's the way it is in healthcare, to keep learning. Emma avoided his gaze. You don't mind, do you? Of course I don't mind. I'm just in time to get together with Derek and the guys. Emma looks relieved. That's good. I leave Friday afternoon. Marcus nodded, but in the back of his mind he was thinking, she's probably going on vacation with Ryan. This was just as well, as it gave him plenty of time to prepare. On Friday, after Emma left the house, Marcus sprang into action. He first went to a print store and organized all the evidence into a book and printed 50 copies. Every copy is included. Intimate photos of Emma and Ryan. Screenshots of their flirty texts. Hotel room records. Evidence of Emma's squandering of joint property. Evidence that Ryan was seeing multiple women at the same time. On the cover, Marcus writes, "The truth about the untold side of Emma Daniels and Ryan Hutchinson." He then contacted attorney Harold and prepared the divorce papers. Based on the evidence available, Harold was confident that he had Marcus' best interests at heart. If she signs off on your terms, she can avoid publicizing this evidence. Harold said, but if she refuses, we'll see you in court. On Saturday, Marcus drove to the city Emma claimed to be going to. Sure enough, he sees Emma's car at a local luxury resort. Derek was already there watching and confirmed that Emma and Ryan were staying in the same suite. Marcus didn't act on impulse. He simply tells Derek to continue gathering evidence while he returns home to make final preparations for next week's operation. Sunday night, Emma came home looking radiant. Her hair was newly styled and her skin was a healthy wheat color from the sun. How was the seminar? Marcus asked, noticing an extra bracelet on her wrist that he hadn't seen before. Very rewarding. She lied without blinking and subconsciously touched that bracelet as she spoke. Learned a lot of new techniques. That's good. Marcus smiled. It looks like you've relaxed quite a bit too. Emma froze, then quickly said, there's a spa at the conference hotel and I stopped by for a treatment. Nice. You do need to relax. Marcus walked over to her. By the way, I got you a present. He hands Emma a jewelry box. The moment he opened the box, the diamond necklace inside sparkled in the light. Emma looked at him in surprise, mixed emotions flashing in her eyes. It's too expensive. You deserve it. Marcus helped her put the necklace on. Consider it a compensatory gift for our 8th wedding anniversary. I know I just took you to dinner the other day. Emma's hand trembled as she touched the necklace. Marcus, what's wrong? Nothing. She turned and hugged him. Thank you. Really. Marcus hugged her back and thought to himself, this is the last time you'll wear my gift. Emma looked extraordinarily tender that night. She offers to make Marcus' favorite dessert and opens a bottle of treasured red wine. Why are you suddenly so nice? Marcus asked. No reason. Emma avoided his gaze. It just feels. It feels like you should appreciate the life you have now. How ironic. Marcus thought. It was only when she was about to ruin it all that she remembered to cherish it. The next morning, Emma made a point of taking a long look in front of the mirror before going to work to make sure the necklace was on perfectly. Marcus knew that she was trying to show off in front of Ryan. Marcus almost laughed at the thought of Ryan's face when he saw the necklace. Sure enough, surveillance shows that Emma went to Ryan's apartment first thing that day at noon after she got off work. Marcus didn't follow up. He had more important things to do. He went to the bank and transferred the money from the joint account to an account Emma didn't know about. It's perfectly legal. As a joint account holder, he has the right to dispose of the funds. Of course, he kept records of all his transactions in case Emma accused him of transferring property in bad faith. Next, he went to an insurance company and purchased a high-cost property insurance policy. If Emma is really planning to set him up, he needs to protect his assets. In the afternoon, Marcus visits an old friend, retired Judge Henderson. They met at a community event, and the senior admired Marcus' integrity. Marcus, what brings you here? Henderson received him in his own study. I need some legal advice, Judge Henderson. Marcus said, about marital property and libel and slander. Henderson's expression got serious. Tell me about it. Marcus was selective in his disclosures. Henderson listens and ponders for a moment. If someone falsely accuses you of domestic abuse, he said, the most important thing is evidence. You need to prove your innocence as well as the malice of the other side. I understand. Also, Henderson added, it's often more advantageous to strike first in these situations. If you have evidence of the other party's misconduct, don't wait until you're accused to bring it out. That's exactly what Marcus wants to hear. In the evening, Emma came home with Chinese takeout. Too busy to cook. She explained. Wednesday morning, Emma went to work as usual. She's wearing the necklace Marcus gave her, and she looks in a good mood. On her way out, she plants a kiss on Marcus' cheek. See you tonight, she said. See you tonight. Marcus responds, watching her leave. At 9:30, Marcus arrived at the hospital. Linda is waiting for him at the back door. The conference hall is on the 3rd floor, and the staff is setting up now. She said, are you sure you want to do this? Okay. Linda took him to a small room off the conference hall. It has a view of the conference hall. Everyone will be here by 10 o'clock. Thank you, Linda. You're welcome. Emma, that bitch deserved it. At 10 o'clock sharp, the medical staff entered the conference hall one by one. Marcus saw Emma walk in with a couple of co-workers talking and laughing, sitting in the middle seat. Ryan sat on the other side of the room, and the two pretended not to know each other. The hospital president began his speech, which was about the new healthcare policy. In about 15 minutes, as planned, there will be a tea break. The tea break begins, and people get up and move around. Just then, Marcus walked into the conference room. He walked right up to the podium and picked up the microphone. "Excuse me, guys." Everyone turned their heads to look at him. Emma's face instantly turned pale. "I'm Marcus Daniels, Emma Daniels' husband," Marcus said calmly. "I'm here today to share some information with you." He held up the bag of papers in his hand. "The truth about your colleagues Emma Daniels and Ryan Hutchinson." The meeting place fell silent. Emma stood up and tried to leave, but with her co-workers all around her, she had nowhere to run. 3 months ago, Marcus continued, "My wife began an affair. The subject is Dr. Ryan Hutchinson. Not only are they cheating behind my back, but they're in my house, in my bed." There were whispers from the crowd. Ryan's face turned red. But that's not the worst of it. Marcus opened the paper bag. "Emma also plans to falsely accuse me of domestic abuse as a way to get more property in the divorce. And Dr. Ryan, not only was he having an affair with my wife, but he was also having an affair with Ms. Jennifer from the pharmacy department at the same time." He started distributing that information. People scrambled to pass them around and wore shocked expressions when they saw the photos and evidence. "I'm not looking for sympathy," Marcus said. "I just think you have a right to know what kind of people you're working with. A wife who betrays her marriage, a doctor who plays with her emotions." Emma finally found her voice. "Marcus, please don't do this." "Beg me." Marcus looked at her. "Like you begged me for forgiveness when you betrayed me?" "Oh wait, you never begged because you thought I'd never find out." Dean stood up, grimacing. "Mr. Daniels, this is a hospital, not a place for personal vendettas." "You're right," Marcus said. "But when private behavior affects professional conduct, it's not just a private matter." Dr. Ryan uses his position of authority to develop an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate, and Nurse Emma leaves work during working hours to have a rendezvous with her lover. Shouldn't these be taken seriously? Security was called in, but Marcus had done what he wanted to do. He put down the microphone and walked calmly toward the exit. "Oh, and one more thing." He turned in the doorway. "Emma, the divorce papers have been filed. My attorney will contact you." Walking out of the hospital, Marcus took a deep breath. Step 1 is complete. Sure enough, Emma called him frantically that afternoon. Marcus didn't pick up. When he came home in the evening, he found that Emma had moved most of her things. A note was left on the table. "You ruined me." Marcus threw the note in the trash. She destroyed herself. He just let the truth come out. Over the next few days, things at the hospital quickly festered. According to Linda, the hospital launched an investigation into the matter. Ryan was suspended, pending the outcome of the investigation. Emma, on the other hand, voluntarily resigned. It was no longer possible for her to continue working in the eyes of her co-workers. Derek brings more news. Ryan's other flame, Jennifer, complained to the hospital about his sexual harassment. "Looks like his career as a doctor is over." "Serves you right," Marcus said. A week later, Emma's lawyer contacted Harold. Faced with hard evidence and an already tarnished reputation, Emma has no leverage to negotiate. She agreed to the terms Marcus offered. Marcus owns the house. 70% of the joint deposit goes to Marcus. Emma moved out. No alimony. No further contact between the parties. She also asked you to stop disseminating that material. Harold said, "As long as she keeps her end of the bargain, I'm not interested in bringing it up again." Marcus said. The divorce went quickly. A month later, the dust settled. Marcus kept his house and most of his possessions, while Emma had to move back in with her parents. Ryan is said to have not only lost his job, but is also at risk of losing his license to practice medicine because of the hospital's investigation and Jennifer's allegations. He left the city in a hurry and is nowhere to be found. Marcus sold the furniture in the master bedroom and redecorated the room. He'd thrown away all traces of Emma, except for the diary which he'd locked in the safe as a reminder. One day, 3 months later, Marcus meets Melissa at the supermarket. Emma's ex-colleagues look embarrassed. "Marcus, I want to say I'm sorry," she said. "I don't know what Emma is doing. I never would have helped her if I had known. The past is the past." Marcus said, "She's having a hell of a time." Melissa couldn't resist. Couldn't find a job, and Ryan abandoned her. Her parents are disappointed in her. Marcus had no comment. He pushed the shopping cart onward. "Marcus," Melissa shouted behind her. "She regrets it, really." She said if she could do it all over again. Unfortunately, there are no ifs in life, Marcus said without looking back. At night, Marcus and Derek drink at the bar. Do you regret it? Derek asked. After all, it's an 8-year relationship. Marcus shook his head. What I regret is not seeing her true colors sooner. As for retaliation, no regrets at all. How do you feel now? Freedom. Marcus raised his glass. Freedom like never before. They clinked glasses. Outside the window, the lights of the city twinkled. Marcus knew life is just beginning. He lost an unfaithful wife, but recovered his self-respect and dignity. After a few months, Marcus's electrician business went from strength to strength. He hired 2 assistants and was overwhelmed with orders. Gloria, a neighbor, became a big supporter of his work and went around recommending his craft to people. You're a good man, Marcus, she used to say. Good things happen to good people. One day, Marcus meets a new client, Sarah, a divorced interior designer, at a coffee shop. She needs someone to help remodel the electrical system in the old house she just bought. The house is very old, she explains, but I'm sure with remodeling it will be brand new. Marcus looked at the passion in her eyes and remembered something. Sometimes it's better to push back than to tinker. Sarah laughed. That's right. When something is broken, it should be replaced completely. They began working together, with Sarah designing and Marcus implementing. Working together, they found they had a lot in common with each other. Does your ex-husband mind you buying such a big house? One day Marcus asked. He's in no position to mind. Sarah said, people who cheat have no say in the matter. Marcus froze for a moment, then laughed. It seems they have more in common than they thought. A year later, when Marcus finally feels ready to start over, he asked Sarah out to dinner. Not a work dinner, but a real date. Let me be clear, Marcus said. My previous marriage was a failure. Coincidentally, Sarah raised her glass. So am I. It may take me a long time to fully trust people again. It's okay. I have plenty of time. They looked at each other and smiled. Outside the window, the sun was setting, coloring the entire dining room gold. Where's Emma? Supposedly, she finally got a job in another city, a nurse at a small clinic. Ryan's whereabouts are unknown. Some say he went overseas. They used to think they were smart, that passion was worth betraying, that lies could bury the truth forever. They were wrong. Marcus's new life proves a simple truth. The betrayer will eventually get what's coming to him, and the betrayed, if they're strong enough and smart enough, can always make justice prevail. The house that was once full of lies is now the new home that Marcus and Sarah have built together. Paintings they had picked out together hung on the walls, and bookshelves were lined with books they both loved. Sometimes Marcus remembers the past, but no longer with hate, just with gratitude that he realized the truth in time, that he had the courage to fight back, that he didn't choose to hold his tongue. The second month after revenge, Marcus received a letter. There was no sender's address on the envelope, but he recognized the handwriting. It's Emma's. He hesitated, but opened it. Marcus, I know you hate me, and you have every right to hate me. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my friends, even my self-esteem. Every morning I wake up and hope it's just a bad dream. But this isn't a nightmare. This is a reality of my own making. I'm not writing this letter to ask for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that you won. A total win. And I, for one, got what I deserved. Ryan disappeared the day after the incident. Turns out he has a fiancée that he's been hiding from everyone. Ridiculous, isn't it? The liar was lied to by the liar. I now work as a caregiver in a nursing home for a third of what I used to make. Every day, I face the strange looks of strangers. But that's the price, I understand. Take care of yourself. Emma. Marcus read the letter and was untouched. He threw the letter into the fireplace and watched it turn to ashes. Let bygones be bygones. He had more important things to do. His electrician company had just received a big order, a remodeling project for the city. It means a steady income and more opportunities. Derek became his business partner, and the two worked well together. Remember a year ago today? Derek asked, the day you found out the truth. Remember? Marcus examined the plans. That was a turning point in my life. Regret what you did then? Why should I regret it? Marcus looked up. If I had to do it again, I'd do it again. It will even be done more thoroughly. Derek laughed. That's the Marcus I know. Indeed, Marcus has changed a lot in the past year. He became tougher, more decisive, and better able to protect himself. He learned to read people, learned not to trust easily, and learned how to fight back even more. Sarah walked into the office, lunch in hand. "Don't forget to eat," she said, setting her sandwich down on Marcus' desk. "Thanks." Marcus took her hand. "Are you free tonight?" "Sure. What's going on?" "Nothing special. Just wanted to have dinner with you." Sarah smiled and kissed him on the forehead. "See you at 7. Watching Sarah leave, Derek shook his head. "You guys, it's a blessing in disguise." "Maybe," Marcus said, "but I wouldn't be who I am now without that calamity." In the evening, Marcus comes home from work early to prepare dinner. He now lived in a small cottage on the outskirts of town, not as big as his old house, but more cozy. In the kitchen, he skillfully prepared the ingredients. The doorbell rang. Marcus opens the door and sees Gloria standing outside. "Excuse me, Marcus," she said. "I made too many cookies and thought I'd give you some." "Thanks, Gloria. Come in and sit down." "No, I know you're waiting for someone." The old lady winked. "That pretty designer lady, right?" Marcus laughed. "You are still so well informed." "Sure." Gloria lowered her voice. "Right. Your ex-wife came back once last month." Marcus's expression hasn't changed. "Yes. It stood outside the old house for a long time before the new owners finally kicked it out." Gloria shook her head. "It really deserved it. Betraying such a good husband." "It's all over," Marcus said. "It's good to be over." Gloria patted his arm. "Your life right now is what matters." After dropping off Gloria, Marcus continues to prepare dinner. At 7 o'clock sharp, Sarah arrived on time. She brought a bottle of red wine, Marcus' favorite brand. "It smells so good," she said, walking into the kitchen. "I hope it tastes as good," Marcus said. They ate together and talked about everyday things. Sarah told an anecdote about a client and Marcus shared what he saw on the job site. Ordinary and real. That's exactly what Marcus wants out of life right now. "Marcus," Sarah said suddenly after the meal. "We've known each other for almost a year. 11 months and 2 weeks." Marcus was accurate. Sarah laughed. "You really do remember it well. Always remember the important days well. So do you remember what you said on our first official date?" "Remember. I said it might take me a long time to fully trust people again." "Now what?" Sarah looked into his eyes. Marcus held her hand. "Now I know that not everyone betrays. Some people are worth trusting. Such as, like you." That night, Sarah spent her first night at Marcus' new house. The early morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, and Marcus looked at the sleeping Sarah beside him, and a long-lost peace welled up in his heart. His cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Derek. "Dude, there's a message you might want to know. Ryan Hutchinson was arrested for fraud. Turns out he's been scamming rich women." Marcus replied, "It's none of my business." It really doesn't concern him anymore. Ryan and Emma are a thing of the past, a lesson in his life. Marcus now has his own business, a true partner, and a fulfilling life. At breakfast, Sarah asked, "What's on your mind?" "Thinking about myself a year ago," Marcus said. "I would not have believed it if I had seen life then as it is now. Life works in mysterious ways." Sarah said, "Indeed." Marcus nods. "Sometimes the worst things can bring out the best instead." They smiled at each other and continued to enjoy their breakfast. Outside the window, a new day begins. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.